Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Soul Whispers Coming Home to You. This is episode 14, The New Moon in Gemini, The Self Speaks. Let's begin by taking one slow breath together, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Let your shoulders drop, let your jaw release, and let this time be what it is, a time that belongs entirely to you. I'm Susan, certified somatic trauma-informed coach, and the rest of my credentials are in the show notes below. I am someone who spent nearly 4 decades in a relationship built on intermittent reinforcement, gaslighting, and walking on eggshells. I also had moments that were filled with lots of fun and joy, so it became very confusing. And all of those pieces created the perfect storm for a trauma bond. I'm here because my deepest wish is to help the person I used to be. You see, I found my own way back to myself once I finally had the language for what I had lived. I am here to give you that language too. 14 episodes, and today, under the most intellectually alive new moon of the year, I want to do something I've been building toward. I want to open the doors of this series a little wider. Soul Whispers began with one story, mine, a trauma bond that asked me to disappear for almost 4 decades. And it will always hold that story because that story is the one I know from the inside. And there are so many of you who needed to hear it named. But the soul whispers to all of us. Not only to those who survived toxic relationships, it whispers to the overachiever who is afraid to stop because of what she might feel when she does, to the person lying awake at 3 a.m. with financial anxiety that has no switch to turn off, to the woman who's in menopause, whose body is burning through everything she thought she was, to the people pleaser who has been managing everyone else's comfort at the cost of her own for so long she has forgotten what her own comfort even feels like. To anyone carrying resentment, grief, shame, or the weight of a life that stopped feeling like theirs. The nervous system does not care what the source of the stress is. The parts work the same way, whether the wound came from a relationship or a workplace or a childhood or a body going through its own transformation. The subconscious holds the program regardless of where the program was installed. So from this episode, Soul Whispers opens its doors even wider. Same voice, same framework. Same IFS and somatic and NLP work, same God, universe, source threading through everything, and a much larger conversation about what it means for everyone in any kind of life to finally come home to yourself. There was a morning not long after I left when I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea and genuinely did not know who I was. Not in a dramatic way. In a quiet, slightly bewildering way. The relationship was over, the children were grown, the house was still. And in the absence of the constant work of managing someone else's emotional world, the walking on eggshells, the reading of the room, the endless calculation of what this atmosphere required of me, I discovered something startling. I did not know what I liked, what I wanted, what I thought about things when I was not factoring in how someone else would receive my thoughts. I had been so thoroughly organized around someone else's inner world that my own inner world had become almost entirely unfamiliar to me. The voice that spoke in that quiet kitchen was not the manager's careful calculation. It was not the exile's grief. It was not the firefighter reaching for the nearest distraction. It was something quieter than all of those, something that had been there the whole time, underneath all of it, waiting with a patience that I found genuinely astonishing. The higher spiritual self does not leave when the parts take over. It waits with a stillness that is not passive. It is simply not afraid of time. It knows it is permanent in a way that no part, however loud, ever truly is. That morning at the kitchen table, with the tea going cold and the house entirely still, I had my first real conversation with my higher spiritual self. Not a dramatic revelation, just a quiet noticing. A quality of presence that felt different from any of the other inner states I had been living in the past 40 years. It was calm, curious, clear, a little amused, honestly, at how long everything had taken. I did not know what to call it then. Internal family systems gave me the word later, but the experience was real, of something in me that was fundamentally okay, that had always been fundamentally okay, even through everything. And learning to live from that place, rather than from the parts that were doing their best to keep me safe, has been the real work of coming home. And perhaps your story of losing yourself looks different from mine. Perhaps it happened not in a relationship, but in a career that consumed everything, or in a family role that left no room for a higher self. In the gradual, quiet erosion of a person who was always putting everyone else first, in a body going through menopause that seemed to be dismantling the identity piece by piece, in financial anxiety that made the future feel too dangerous to imagine. In any of the 10,000 ways that a human being can find themselves sitting at a kitchen table, wondering who they are when no one is asking anything of them. The voice that speaks into that silence, quiet, clear, already home, that is the higher spiritual self. And today, under this super new moon in Gemini, we go looking for it together. The super new moon in Gemini peaks tonight, closer to the earth than usual, making this a more amplified new beginning than a regular new moon. Gemini is the sign of the mind, of voice, of the multiplicity of the self, of curiosity, communication, and the stories we tell ourselves and others. This new moon is asking, which voice have you been following? The part's urgent message or the self's quiet knowing? And what new story, new understanding, new way of speaking to yourself are you ready to begin? Mercury, Gemini's ruler, has moved into Cancer, meaning the intentions you plant tonight carry emotional weight alongside intellectual clarity. The chart wants you to think. Your heart wants you to feel. Let both be present tonight. In IFS, the self is not a part. It is not something you built or developed or earned. It is the essential nature of every human being, the ground state, the deepest truth of who you are, beneath everything that was layered on top of you by experience. Richard Schwartz, who developed internal family systems over decades of clinical work, found something that consistently surprised him. No matter how much trauma a person had experienced, no matter how many parts had taken extreme roles to protect them, the self was always there, always intact, always capable of leading, healing, and holding the whole system when the parts trusted it enough to step back. The The higher spiritual self is not the voice that criticizes. That's the manager. It is not the voice that reaches for distraction when the feelings get too loud. That is the firefighter. It is not the voice that carries the old wound and believes it's still happening. That is the exile. The self is the one that can be present with all of those, with warmth and clarity, genuine curiosity, without being overwhelmed by any of them. You have been in the higher spiritual self many times without knowing it. The moment you looked at a sunset and forgot just for a second to be worried about anything. The moment you laughed completely without reservation. The moment of absolute clarity when you finally knew something was true. That quality of presence is the self. Now, Dr. Schwartz identified 8 qualities that are consistently present when a person is operating from self-energy, and he called them the 8 C's. These are not things you have to manufacture. They are what naturally emerges when the parts step back enough to let the self lead. I just want to review them with you now so you can be aware of them. The 8 C's are calm, the steady ground beneath the parts, not the absence of feeling, the presence of steadiness. Curiosity, turning toward the parts and toward life with interest rather than judgment. And clarity, seeing clearly yourself, others, situations without the distortion of a triggered part. Compassion, the warm, open-hearted quality that allows you to be with pain without being overwhelmed by it. Confidence, not the performance of certainty, but the quiet knowing that you can handle what arises. Creativity, the capacity to find new ways through, to play, to imagine differently. Courage, the willingness to go toward what is difficult because the self knows it leads somewhere real. And connectedness, the felt sense of belonging to yourself, to others, to something larger. Now, those 8 qualities hopefully help you notice which one feels familiar, like something you recognize in yourself on your best days. And notice which ones feel foreign, like something you have heard of but cannot quite access. The one that feels foreign are not absent. They're covered by a part that learned in whatever circumstances formed it, that those qualities were dangerous, unnecessary, or simply not available to you. The work of coming home is not creating the self, it's uncovering it. The difference between living from a part and living from the self is not always dramatic from the outside, but from the inside it is everything. When the manager is leading, the decisions get made carefully, the performance is maintained, the emotions are monitored before they are expressed. Everything is slightly effortless, slightly guarded. When the firefighter is leading, the reach for relief happens before the full feeling can arrive. Something gets numbed or avoided or managed into something more bearable. There's always a vague sense of running. When the exile is leading, everything feels personal. Every slight confirms the old wound. Every withdrawal confirms the fear. And the past is always present. And when the higher spiritual self is leading, there's a quality of ease that is not complacency, like a steadiness that's not rigid, a warmth that is available even in difficult conversations, the ability to say something true without bracing for the response, the capacity to feel something fully without being afraid it will last forever. This is not a permanent state. The parts will always be part of the system. They will always have their perspective and their concern. But when the self is leading, they become advisors rather than drivers. They're heard, they're respected, and they trust gradually that the self can handle what they have been working so hard to manage. This is sovereignty, not the absence of difficulty, the presence of a self strong enough to meet it. I want to speak to whoever's here today, whatever brought you to Soul Whispers. Whether you came because you recognized the trauma bond, or because the burnout finally got too loud to ignore, or because menopause started burning away everything you thought you were and you needed someone to tell you that was not destruction, or because the financial anxiety or the worrying that you do has been running like a background program for so long that you've forgotten what it's like to not feel afraid, or because the people-pleasing became so second nature that you genuinely cannot remember the last time you said what you actually wanted. Whatever form your losing yourself took, the self that was there before it and has been there throughout it is the same self. It does not change with circumstances. It does not diminish with wounds. It waits with that extraordinary patience for the moment there is enough safety and enough language and enough space for it to be heard. God, the universe, source, the intelligence that placed that self in you before you were born and has been sustaining it through everything, that intelligence did not put the self in you as a decoration or some kind of special feature. It put it there as the leader, as the part of you that was always meant to lead. And coming home to yourself is, at its deepest level, coming home to the self that God placed at your center. The whisper from your soul that brought you here through 14 episodes, through whatever it cost you to keep showing up, that whisper is the self, the higher spiritual self. It has always been the self, speaking in the only language it had access to in each moment, and calling you, as it has always been calling you, home. Now, under this new moon in Gemini, the moon of the many voices, the moon of the mind learning to feel, plant this seed. I choose to be led by the self today. Not perfectly, not permanently, just for today. One moment of choosing the calm, curious, compassionate voice over the urgent, afraid, protecting voice. One moment of the higher spiritual self leading. Now let's do a little somatic practice. The self has a felt quality in the body. It is different from the manager's tension, the exile's ache, and the firefighter's restlessness. And once you know it, once you have found it in your body, even once, you can return to it whenever you need it. So let's start by sitting quietly and closing your eyes and taking 3 vagus nerve breaths. That's in through the nose for 4, holding for 2, and a long, slow exhale through your mouth for 7. Do that 2 more times. Noticing your shoulders drop, your jaw relaxing, and any other parts of your body start to just settle down. Now, without trying to think your way there, notice if there is anywhere in your body right now that has a quality of steadiness, even a tiny thread of it, even just 1 square inch. It might be in your chest or your belly, or the soles of your feet that are resting on the floor. But somewhere that feels however slightly more settled than the rest. Notice that now. And when you find it, if you're able to, place your hand there, not to fix anything, just to acknowledge it. And for instance, if it's your feet, you don't have to put your hands on your feet, but you can just visualize your hands on your feet. Now notice, is there a quality of calm available from that place? Even just the beginning of one. perhaps a slight spaciousness, a sense that whatever's happening is okay. That is your higher spiritual self, not an idea, not a concept, a felt reality available in your body right now. So breathe into it. Let it expand just slightly. Let it know you recognize it and that it has been found. Now let's begin your guided meditation. Get yourself in a comfortable position, feet on the floor if you're able to, and position your hands open and receiving in your lap. Taking one slow breath in through your nose and a longer, complete exhale through your mouth. Let the exhale be as long as it wants to be. Maybe even offer it a sigh when you exhale. Let it carry whatever needs to go. Feel the ground beneath you. The new moon is in the sky tonight. Invisible, dark, fully present. A beginning. The 6th new moon of the year, arriving in the sign of the many voices, asking which one leads. And feel for a moment how many voices are present in you right now. The one that wonders if you are doing this right. The one that's already thinking about what comes after. The one that is perhaps tired. Or the one that's hopeful. Or even the one that has been carrying something for a very long time. Welcome them all, every single one. They are all part of you, and they all brought you here. Now gently, without forcing anything, I want you to bring your awareness to the place in your body that you found in the somatic practice we did earlier. The place in your body where you felt steady, calm, even if it's a slight, tiny space. Just a feeling okay. And if you can't find it right now, that's also completely fine. Just simply notice the place that feels most neutral, most quiet, most free of urgency. And place your hand there and slowly breathe into it, as if you're breathing warmth and attention and recognition into a place that has been waiting to be noticed. Breathe. This is your highest spiritual self, this quality, however subtle, however small, is the ground state of who you are, beneath the parts, beneath the story, beneath everything that you've experienced throughout your life. Let it expand just slightly, not forced. Just allow it. As if you're giving it permission to take up a little more of your available space. and breathe. From this place of your higher spiritual self, from this quality of calm and curiosity, I want you to look inward at the parts, all of them. The managers, the firefighters, the exile, whatever is present. And from the higher spiritual self, not from another part, not from judgment, not from urgency, but from the higher spiritual self, ask them one question. What do you need from me right now? Notice what arrives. It might be a single word, a feeling, an image, a sense of something that wants to be seen. Whatever comes, be open to receive it from the higher spiritual self with the same warmth you would offer a child who needed to be heard. And breathe. And from the self, offer that part something it may not have received in a long time. Acknowledgement. I see you. I hear you. I am not going to override you or dismiss you. I am here for you. And breathe. Now from the higher spiritual self, in the energy of this new moon in Gemini, I want to invite you to plant one seed. Not a grand declaration, not a resolution, a seed. A single intention for what it would feel like to live one day more from the self than from the parts. What one thing would be different if your higher spiritual self were leading you today? Maybe it's, I speak what is true for me, even when my voice shakes. Or maybe it's, I rest without guilt. I stop without fear of what I might feel. Or maybe it is, I trust the quiet voice over the loud one. Or maybe it is simply, I come home to myself today, one breath at a time. Whatever your seed is, see it clearly in your imagination. Hold that seed in your hands. Feel its weight, how small it is and how much it holds. Send it love and gratitude and plant it right here in this moment in the soft, dark soil of the new moon. And as you continue to return to the self, as you continue to practice choosing the calm voice over the urgent one moment at a time, that seed is already growing. Now keep your hand where it's been resting, on the place in your body where the self lives. and feel beneath the self the presence that has always been there behind it. God, the universe, source, the intelligence that placed this quality in you, that has been sustaining it through everything, that has never, not once, stopped calling you toward it. The whisper from your soul was always this, not a warning, not an alarm, not a summons to fix something. A simple, faithful, endless, patient invitation. Come home. You are already home. Your higher spiritual self has always been here, patiently waiting. You are finding your way back to it. One breath, one new moon seed at a time. And breathe. Now let the parts feel your spiritual higher self's steady presence. Let them know you are not alone. I am here. I am leading now. And you, my dear loved one, can rest. And take one final breath in through your nose all the way to where your hand is resting. Letting your body begin to return back to the present time. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Now we are at 14 episodes, and today the doors opened wider to everyone who has been here from the beginning and to everyone who arrived here from a different door, through burnout or anxiety or grief or a body that would not stop speaking. Welcome. You belong here. This series is for all of you. The new moon seed you planted tonight, make sure you tend to it this week. Write it down. Read it in the morning and right before you go to bed. Let the self speak it back to you every time a part tries to take the wheel. Not with force, but with the quiet authority of something that knows it belongs. Now, next week in episode 15, the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, and an invitation that has been building since episode 1 to finally fully stand in your own light, without shrinking, without apologizing, without the old conditioning that said being seen was dangerous. Be ready to stand in your light. You can find me here every week offering you a safe place to land. And if you're ready to go deeper, if today opened a door, if you felt the self for the first time, or recognized a part that's been leading your life without your full awareness, this work goes much deeper in one-to-one sessions. Whatever brought you to Soul Whispers, a relationship, burnout, anxiety, grief, a life that stopped feeling like yours, well, I'm here for exactly that. I offer private sessions combining all of these tools, and I make it very personalized. You do not have to find your way home alone because you are already home. You can book a free discovery call. The link is in the show notes below. And before you go, my friend, I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment and tell me which one of the 8 C's felt most distant to you right now, and which one felt like it was already there, waiting to be noticed. And if you're new here, tell me what brought you to Soul Whispers. Whatever your story is, you belong in this community. If Soul Whispers is part of your coming home and you're new to this channel, I hope you subscribe. And for my current subscribers, I am so grateful you're here, and it's been wonderful working with each of you. So please, if you could, leave a thumbs up, so I can know today helped you out, and share this with one person whose soul has been whispering something they haven't yet had the space to hear. Until next week, love and hugs.